Hey everyone, it's been a little while, but I'm back today to bring you my preview and predictions for week 26 of the Overwatch League. For those that didn't see my Twitter post last weekend, I've been taking some time to reevaluate and think about what sort of competitive Overwatch content I want to make moving forward, but I'm excited to say that I'll be uploading some of these new video ideas over the coming days, so be sure to keep an eye out for those. Back to the matter at hand though, let's now run through the final week of qualifiers ahead of the Countdown Cup, as I give my thoughts and opinions on who I think comes out on top in each of these matchups, with some of the teams not only looking to better their tournament seeding, but also their regular season standing, with a few sides concluding their regular season matches this weekend. As has been the norm for the past month, the action gets underway in North America on Friday, with the first series of the night pitting the Dallas Fuel against the Philadelphia Fusion. Obviously, Philly will come into this match as the heavy favourites, but given Dallas's impressive momentum since the Summer Showdown, I reckon we should be in for an entertaining series between these two sides. We must remember that the hero pool is being disabled for this week ahead of the Countdown Cup, but I don't see it having too much of an impact on this specific match on either side, with the meta likely returning to something similar to what we saw at the last tournament. Assuming Genji is played by both sides, I'm probably more excited to see the duel between Doha and EQO given their brilliant recent showings on the hero, than I am the other DPS clash between Decay and Carpe, as weird as that might sound. And after stumbling a little against the Gladiators last week, I wouldn't rule out a tight competitive series between the Fuel and the Fusion here. This match will likely confirm a top 4 spot in NA's tournament seeding, and whilst I believe it will be an entertaining watch, I have to go with Philly to win the series here 3-1, with their stronger tank and support lines likely making the difference at the end of the day. This contest is followed by the intriguing match between the LA Valiant and the Houston Outlaws, with both sides displaying some varied performances over the last couple of weeks. I think the winner here will be the one that is most comfortable in their non-hero pool composition, as we know both squads have a huge amount of potential when they're firing on all cylinders. It's hard to say though who this will be, with the Valiant's 2 series this month seen on opposite ends of 3-0s, with a defeat to Atlanta and a win over Boston. The Outlaws meanwhile have gone from a really close 3-2 loss to Dallas that they probably should have won, to a rather bizarre and scrappy 3-1 defeat to Washington last week. The DPS battle between Shaxx KSP, as well as Linkser and Dante, is something I'm definitely looking forward to. But of late, Houston have been struggling with hydration at the main tank position, and I think Dream is going to get the better of him in this series, which will swing momentum in the Valiant's favour, which is why I'm predicting them to take this series by a score of 3-1. That concludes the Friday matches, so now we move on to the matches scheduled for Saturday, and as normal we wake up bright and early for the APAC offerings, that begin with the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Guangzhou Charge. I don't want to spend too much time discussing this series, as I certainly think things will get more competitive as the morning goes on. What I will say though, is that it's been a strange couple of weeks for both of these sides. While Seoul haven't played badly, I'm certainly not going to praise them for 3 defeats on the bounce, which looks likely to leave them with the 7th seed in the APAC region. The Charge themselves had a major hiccup last week with an ugly 3-0 loss to New York. However, I do believe that both of these teams struggle with the non-Orisa ball meta that became popular during the last hero pool, and as a result I expect them to look much more comfortable this weekend. We can't also ignore the fact that despite Guangzhou clearly enjoying the better season, that makes them the huge favourites for this bout. When these two squads face off, it's usually quite a competitive affair. That said, I think the lack of a hero pool leaves a meta that the Charge are really strong in, and at this point I've given up on the Dynasty mounting any real challenge in most of their series, so I'm predicting a 3-1 win for Guangzhou. The second series of the morning between the London Spitfire and the Hangzhou Spark could either be one that is really close and competitive, or one where one of the teams completely dominates. This is primarily down to the varying performances from the Spark that we've seen from them of late, that in many ways have followed the sole formula of being boom or bust. Indeed, they started their qualifiers with an impressive 3-0 victory over the Dynasty, before falling apart completely last week to the Hunters in a 3-0 defeat. London meanwhile have continued to develop from strength to strength, taking a map off of the Charge, before yet again taking the Dragons to 5 maps, only to just fall short. There's definitely a world where the full potential of the Spark is exhibited during this match, and their very talented roster come out guns blazing to claim victory. Can I trust this to happen though? Not really, and that's why I believe it will be London on their positive trajectory who comes out on top here, 3-2, hopefully giving us a nice appetizer for the series that follows. That match, which concludes the APAC action for this weekend, features the New York Excelsior up against the Shanghai Dragons, and on paper it should be an absolute cracker. Outside of Chengdu, New York and Shanghai have been the 2 of the top APAC teams over the past 2 weeks, and I think the stage is set for this to be a very interesting and entertaining contest. Whilst the Excelsior blew the Charge out of the water last week, I do have to wonder whether a likely change in composition due to the disabling of the hero pool will hamper their momentum after taking on board Chengdu's playstyle after their defeat to them. The Dragons on the other hand have continued to struggle when running Genji in their team comps, with Fleta looking very uncomfortable on the hero, and only really finding success when Lip is played alongside him on a Sombra. With the meta likely to return to something similar to what was played at the Summer Showdown, and seeing how they struggled to get going against London, I'm considering the real possibility of there being an upset here. Bianca's introduction to New York's starting lineup last week really seemed to give them an extra edge, and I think if Haxel has a strong day on Genji, it's certainly feasible that the Excelsior edge past the Shanghai side who clearly aren't at their best in this sort of meta. That's why I'm going to take a little gamble here and say that New York come out the series winners 3-2 over the Dragons. Regardless of the winner though, I just hope we get a fantastic showcase, as this should be the highlight and standout match of this weekend. That concludes all the APAC qualifier matches ahead of the Countdown Cup next week, which just leaves us with the North American contests across Saturday and Sunday. There are a few matches here that I don't feel the need to say too much on, given how one-sided they look on paper. One such series is the first NA Saturday matchup between the Paris Eternal and the Washington Justice. Paris look on top of the world at the moment, and what's been most impressive to me has been their adaptability and flexibility across a number of different compositions. The Eternal has shown that they don't have to just rely on Sparkle to pop off on a hero like Genji. Instead, they can quite easily, and are quite willing, to chop and change with Exi, Nico and Soon, depending on what they want to run on each map. Against a Washington side that, although improving, still relies so much on Tuba's Genji, this should be a walk in the park for Paris, and I'd be very surprised if they don't walk away the winners here with a comfortable 3-0 sweep. The battle for Canada follows afterwards, and I reckon it's one of the more even matches taking place this weekend. Both Toronto and Vancouver have made major improvements over the past few months after their rocky starts to the season, and I think both have found the double shield Genji meta something that suits their playstyles quite nicely. A possible Genji duel between Shockwave and Agilities could be a fantastic watch, and whilst on paper the Defiant are clearly the more experienced team, it will be interesting to see how they perform against the Titans' young guns. With bragging rights on the line, I'm confident we'll see both teams turn up at their best, and if that's the case, I think I have to give the advantage to Toronto, so I'll say they take the series 3-2. The third and final series on Saturday between the Houston Outlaws and the San Francisco Shock should be a simple 3-0 win for the Shock, who have just been dominating all the bottom half teams they've been playing recently. I can't see this series going in any other direction really, and I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco aim for another sub 25, maybe even another sub 20 minute match, as they speedrun their way to the Countdown Cup. By comparison though, Sunday's North American matches should be far more entertaining from a spectator's point of view, with the first match of the day between the Dallas Fuel and the Atlanta Reign likely starting us off strongly. I already praised Dallas earlier for their strong qualifier performances in the past couple of weeks, but Atlanta themselves have enjoyed some decent displays also, with impressive wins over the Valiant and Uprising, whilst having only one loss to the Mayhem. With the retirement of Baby Bay, the Reign have been forced to run Ursa and Edison a lot, which has produced some mixed results. But whilst there is plenty of talent on this squad, which could cause the Fuel some problems, the big problem for Atlanta for me has been their tank line. This is a statement I wasn't expecting to make going back to the start of the season, given the pair's contender success, but Gator just doesn't seem in sync with Hawk as well as the rest of his team, often dying early and miles out of position. To be blunt, the partnership of Pokpo and Dako last year was simply better than anything we've seen from the Reign this year, and I expect Dallas to target this vulnerability during this series. Ursta, Edison, and indeed Sharp could have a really good battle against Decay, Doha and Onigod, but I think they're going to have to play out of their skins if they want to come away the victors, and that's why I'm going to go with the Fuel to win here 3-1. The second series on Sunday, that pits the LA Gladiators against the Florida Mayhem, has been one of the hardest contests for me to evaluate for this preview, given the inconsistencies of both sides. The Gladiators have put on some impressive displays over the past couple of weeks, with their 3-2 defeat to Philly being a notable highlight from last week. I do think though that a lot of their success was directly tied to the recent hero pool, and it's hard for me to judge how their performance will change for their last qualifier now that it's been disabled. Florida meanwhile have been on some good form, with wins over the Justice and Reign, whilst expectedly losing to the Shock. However, in the past they have also struggled transitioning away from hero pools, and whilst I'd expect them to come out the winners here, I could see this becoming a scrappy and messy affair, especially if the LA Gladiators try some funky strats. That's why I'm going to edge towards the Mayhem winning here, but only just by a score of 3-2, in what hopefully is a fun series. The last game we know for certain is the Philadelphia Fusion versus the LA Valiant, and this one should follow the script unless something goes terribly wrong for Philly, or if the Valiant DPS pair go nuts. I don't think there will be any surprises though, and the Fusion should comfortably come away with a 3-1 victory when all said and done. Of course, to end the day on Sunday, we have our NA Countdown Cup qualifier match between the 12th and 13th seeds to see who advances for the tournament the week after. Rather than make a guess here though, I'll post a Twitter prediction before it starts, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. In the meantime though, let me know who you think wins their matches this weekend, and which side you reckon is eliminated from the NA side of things by the end of proceedings, because I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. On that note though, that's all I've got to say for my preview and prediction for week 26 of the Overwatch League, so if you have reached the end of the video, then I'd like to say a big thank you for watching. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I'll be uploading some vids over the coming days, so if you have enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter or join my Discord so you don't miss out on future content. Until next time though, stay safe, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.